So this is gonna probably be my last video. I'm gonna go turn myself in.
After Big U turned himself in, everything spiraled fast. He wasn't facing 1 or 2 charges. He got slammed with a stack: murder, extortion, fraud, even human trafficking. And now, word on the street is Big U's starting to crack. Insiders say he's been getting into fights.
They didn't jump Big U, but best believe Big U was also involved.
Big U was in the fight too? Yo, sis.
A lot's going down with Big U, and if you think it stops at jail fights, wait till you hear what insiders say really went down in court. Let me break it all down. What really happened in court? In March 2025, federal authorities came down hard on Big U and his associates, hitting them with some serious allegations. We're talking about a 43-count federal indictment including charges of racketeering, murder, extortion, fraud, embezzlement, and tax evasion. The feds are basically accusing Big U of running what they call a mafia-like criminal enterprise, known as the Big U Enterprise. Now, when Big U appeared in court on March 20th, he was described as being cuffed and shackled, wearing a white t-shirt, black sweatpants, and Nike sneakers with no laces. Standard prisoner attire, nothing out of the ordinary. Before turning himself in, he dropped some videos sharing his side of the story. In one of these videos, he stated,
"So this is gonna probably be my last video. I'm gonna go turn myself in to see what's going on. They talking about I'm a fugitive."
Big U was clearly frustrated. He was using his words to defend himself against what he sees as unfair charges. In the same video, he claimed,
"If you had something against a black man, you should handle it with a black man in the streets. He's gonna take my contracts. He working with the FBI."
This statement is particularly interesting because it points to a whole other dimension of this story: the long-running beef between Big U and another major industry figure, Wack 100. And this beef might play a significant role in understanding what's really going on with these charges against Big U. Big U's legal team, represented by attorney John Targowski, has stood firm, stating that Henley looks forward to a vigorous defense of these charges and maintains his innocence. Meanwhile, Big U himself has publicly denied the charges, claiming they are attempts to assassinate his character. To understand the full picture, we need to look at who Big U actually is beyond these allegations. This isn't just some random street dude. We're talking about a major figure in both the streets and the music industry. Eugene Big U Henley, a former member of the Rolling 60s Crips gang in Los Angeles, likely rose to prominence in the 1970s and 1980s. His life partly inspired characters in the classic movie Boys in the Hood. That's how significant his street reputation was. But after serving 23 years in prison for a cocaine robbery, he was released around 2004 and appeared to switch lanes. He shifted focus to community work, founding the Developing Options nonprofit, and also entered the music industry, managing rappers like Corrupt and Nipsey Hussle. This career move significantly boosted his public profile and made him a respected figure in hip-hop circles. In interviews, Big U has spoken about his transition and his past. When asked about his experience with law enforcement earlier in his life, he shared some insights.
I mean, if you think about, you even take it back 100 years, where you could shoot someone and move to the next town over.
Change your name,
shave your beard, and it was over. You would never get caught, and then fingerprints, then DNA, and then video cameras everywhere and cell phones.
But that don't stop people.
This quote shows Big U's understanding of how the criminal justice system has evolved, but it doesn't suggest he's still involved in criminal activities. In fact, he's been vocal about trying to reduce gang violence, especially for the sake of the younger generation. Big U is a father of 5 children, and he's mentioned that his motivation for trying to reduce gang violence came from wanting to protect his sons, who were at a target age for gang recruitment. This personal motivation has driven his community work, making these charges against him all the more complex and controversial. Now let's be real, Big U's reputation in the streets is no joke. He's known for being tough and commanding respect. In one interview, when asked about the top fighters from the Rolling 60s, he didn't hesitate to include himself.
I would say different, but he didn't have a lot of fight representing the hood. I was a squabbler in the hood. I squabbled everybody.
He further explained what made him different in street fights.
Because with me, you weren't gonna knock me out. You would have to sleep me. That mean, like, if I'm going to a squabble, to me it was different.
These statements give us insight into Big U's mentality and background, but they don't suggest he's the type to lose control and attack people in a courtroom setting. In fact, as someone who's navigated the legal system before, he would understand the severe consequences of such behavior. The charges against Big U are serious, no doubt. The allegations include the 2021 murder of an aspiring rap musician, directing a robbery of an unlicensed Los Angeles marijuana dispensary, and defrauding companies, donors, athletes like Draymond Green and Shaquille O'Neal, and the GRID program program of $2.35 million over 5 years. These are heavy accusations that could result in significant prison time if proven true. But it's important to note that these are still allegations at this point. The legal process is ongoing, with Big U's trial initially set for May 20th, 2025. Until then, he's presumed innocent under the law, regardless of how serious the charges might sound. What makes this case particularly interesting is the dual nature of Big U's public persona. On one hand, he's seen as a reformed gang member who's focused on community work and music industry success. On the other hand, these charges paint him as someone who's continued criminal activities under the guise of legitimate business and community leadership. This duality has created divided perceptions of him, with some seeing him as a hero and others viewing him as a criminal. In his own words, Big U has expressed frustration at what he sees as unfair targeting. He stated,
"I ain't been nothing but a help to our community. But I guess it is what it is. This the price of being black and trying to help somebody, trying to help your community and do what you can. You're just guilty because somebody else don't like you and then go on the internet and do what they want to, and y'all gonna promote it."
This statement reflects Big U's belief that he's being targeted unfairly, possibly due to his past and his race, rather than actual criminal activities. His court appearances have been standard legal proceedings where he has maintained his composure while pleading not guilty to the charges against him. The real drama is in the charges themselves and the complex backstory that led to them, which is what we'll continue exploring. To truly understand what's going on with Big U's case, we need to look deeper into his history and the complex web of relationships and conflicts that might have led to these charges. And one of the most significant of these conflicts is his beef with Wack 100. Big U vs Wack 100. This beef isn't just some minor disagreement, it's a full-blown war between two of the most connected and influential figures in the hip-hop world. And understanding this conflict is crucial to making sense of Big U's current situation, because he directly accuses Wack 100 of being involved in his arrest. The beef between Big U, Eugene Henley, and Wack 100, Gerald Alexander, is complex, spanning several years and involving both personal and professional disputes. What makes this situation particularly interesting is that these two men were once close friends before things went south. Big U and Wack 100's relationship traces back to around 2000, with connections through Death Row Records. Initially, they were best friends, sharing deep personal ties, including family connections, with their children knowing each other and supporting each other in various situations. This close bond laid the foundation for their early collaboration in the music and street scenes. But as is often the case with close relationships in this industry, things eventually turned sour. The first significant rift occurred in 2017, during a conflict involving 6ix9ine and The Game, who was managed by Wack 100. New York, and an altercation at Big U's shop involving Trippie Redd's security, Ari Mitchell, created bad blood. Wack 100 felt Big U did not protect him, marking the beginning of their distancing. Another early incident that contributed to the deterioration of their friendship was a studio dispute where Wack 100 paid $150 for a room, and Big U asked if it could be used for others, which Wack 100 perceived as disrespect. This event is seen as the end of their close friendship, highlighting growing tensions over what might seem like minor business dealings to outsiders, but represented significant disrespect in their world. There were also financial disputes, with Wack 100 claiming that in 2015, Big U and Suge Knight tried to steal his E1 contracts, a claim Big U denied, stating it was impossible in the music business without supporting evidence like recordings or texts. This private beef lasted 15 months before becoming public knowledge, indicating underlying issues in their professional relationship that festered for quite some time. The situation remained somewhat contained until it exploded into the public eye in 2022. The feud became widely known on July 7th, 2022, when Hassan Campbell released audio where Wack 100 called Big U the biggest snake and discussed Nipsey Hussle's estate, alleging Big U tried to extort 30%. This shocked many people in the industry and beyond, as most believed they were still friends, highlighting just how deep their falling out had become. The conflict quickly escalated from words to alleged physical confrontation. On the same day the audio was released, there were allegations that Tiny Draws punched Wack 103 times at a concert at the Novo, though Wack denied this, and no footage exists. This incident, which was debated on Clubhouse, was seen as a declaration of war, further escalating their public feud. Following these events, Wack 100 seemed to take calculated steps to damage Big U's reputation and credibility. He alleged that in 2015, Big U had a contract with the LAPD's 77th Street Division, using a BlackBerry phone to report gang activity, essentially portraying Big U as an informant or snitch, one of the most damaging accusations in street culture. Whack 100 also worked to turn Big U's associates against him. He flipped several of Big U's associates, including individuals known as 600 and Loose Cannon. Notably, 600 went on YouTube to speak against Big U, and Loose Cannon implicated Big U and Nipsey. Hussle's death during an appearance on No Jumper, further damaging Big U's reputation in both the streets and the industry. As the beef continued to simmer, the stakes got increasingly higher. By 2025, the conflict reached a critical point when Big U faced serious legal troubles. In early 2025, Big U was indicted on RICO charges, accused of running a mafia-like enterprise connected to the Rollin' 60s neighborhood Crips. He turned himself in after the arrests of Brick Baby, Loose Cannon, and others in Los Angeles earlier in the year. Big U elaborated on his accusations, saying,
and I just want to say this to y'all. When they raided my houses and my property, they was asking about Whack, Loose Cannon, 600, and this internet stuff. All of y'all filed. All y'all who be sending on the internet.
Big U also claimed that the FBI was actively working to undermine his community efforts and financial stability.
He working with the FBI. The FBI went to the city 3 days in a row and told the city they didn't want nobody to give me no more money. They went to all the different celebrities and told all the different celebrities, don't give me no money, don't help me.
These are extremely serious accusations in the context of street culture, essentially alleging that Whack 100 is a snitch who cooperated with law enforcement to bring down Big U. Such claims, if believed in the streets, could be devastating for Whack 100's reputation and potentially even dangerous for him. Big U also suggested that the real motivation behind his legal troubles was to remove him from his position of influence and replace him with someone who would be more cooperative with certain interests.
These dudes tagging him. What kind of shit is this? But y'all gonna be rolling with these dudes. And I got this last thing to say. Whack said he was gonna destroy developing option, right? So who gonna replace developing option? Which one of you in the 60s gonna call yourself coming in? Because whoever try to come in, y'all the ones that's working with Whack. Believe that.
He concluded this thought by stating,
so remove me to get me out the way for somebody else to come in who gonna cooperate. That's what the play is. That's what the whole play is.
Of course, Whack 100 didn't take these accusations lying down. He denied involvement in Big U's arrest and challenged Big U to settle their differences either in the streets or through the music business. His response included public statements on Clubhouse, instructing others to fire on Big U if seen, indicating just how volatile this beef has become. The conflict has even drawn in other industry figures, such as DJ Academics, who got into a beef with Whack 100 over Big U's RICO case in April 2025. This shows how the dispute has ripple effects throughout the hip-hop community, with various stakeholders taking sides or getting caught in the crossfire. To understand the full context of this beef, we need to consider the backgrounds of both men and how they rose to positions of influence. Big U's rise through the Rollin' 60s Crips and eventual move into the music industry and community work has already been discussed. Whack 100, meanwhile, has built his reputation as a music manager and industry power broker, working with artists like The Game and Blueface. Both men came from street backgrounds and transitioned into the music industry, giving them unique positions straddling both worlds. This duality can create complex dynamics and conflicts, as street politics and industry business practices sometimes clash. Their beef seems to embody this clash, with accusations of betrayal, disrespect, and now even cooperation with law enforcement. It's important to note that while Big U directly accuses Whack 100 of being involved in his arrest, there's no independent verification of these claims. The federal charges against Big U are based on a lengthy investigation by law enforcement, and whether Whack 100 played any role in providing information remains unproven. Nevertheless, the accusation itself has added a new and explosive dimension to their ongoing conflict. Big U's legal situation is particularly complex because of his dual role as a community leader and alleged gang figure. He founded the Developing Options nonprofit, which received $2.35 million from the Gang Reduction and Youth Development GRID program between 2018 and 2023. Now, part of the charges against him involve allegations that he defrauded this program, creating a stark contrast between his public image as a community advocate and the criminal activities he's accused of. Speaking of his role as a former gang member who transitioned to community work, Big U has talked about the challenges of changing perceptions, especially with his own children.
So I came home in 2004, but I only had been on the main line 21 days before I was released. And that was the time they got to meet me. And so it was a transition, me coming home and not coming home the person they had been hearing about. You know what I mean? They had heard about this street dude, and I guess all the newspaper articles and whatever had you, Big U, this, and he did this, and he did that. And when I come home, I'm not actually the person they had been hearing about. I'm a lot different. I'm the opposite.
This quote provides a glimpse into Big U's mindset regarding his transition from his street life to becoming a father and community leader. He expresses a desire to break the cycle of violence and incarceration for the sake of his children, which makes the current charges against him all the more significant as they threaten to undo the new life and identity he claims to have built. The beef between Big U and Whack 100 represents more than just a personal conflict. It's a clash at the intersection of street politics, music industry business, and community leadership. And now, with Big U facing serious legal charges and directly accusing Whack 100 of involvement, the stakes are higher than ever. As the legal proceedings against Big U continue, the true nature of his activities, whether he's genuinely reformed or has been using his community work as a cover for ongoing criminal enterprise, will be determined in court. But regardless of the outcome, his conflict with Whack 100 has already had significant consequences for both men and the broader hip-hop community. Let's now examine the specific charges against Big U in more detail and what they might mean for his future and legacy. RICO charges, legal battles, and Big U's future. The specific charges involving the GRID program are particularly damaging to Big U's image as a community leader. The Los Angeles Times reported that Henley received grants from government agencies for his charity, which were allegedly diverted to criminal activities. If proven true, this would not only be a criminal offense, but also a betrayal of the communities he claimed to be helping, potentially undermining trust in legitimate community organizations working in similar spaces. Beyond the legal implications, Big U's case highlights the challenges facing individuals trying to transition from street life to legitimate business and community work. His story, regardless of how the case turns out, illustrates the difficulties of escaping one's past and the skepticism such efforts often face from both law enforcement and the public. The involvement of Big U's former associates in the case adds another layer of complexity. According to Big U's own statements, individuals like 600 and Loose Cannon, who were once his allies, have turned against him and may be cooperating with authorities. If true, this suggests that the web of relationships and loyalties within Big U's circle has fractured significantly, potentially providing prosecutors with insider testimony that could strengthen their case. But it's not just former associates who may be involved. Big U has specifically accused Whack 100 of working with the FBI to bring about his arrest. In his pre-arrest video, he stated,
"If you had something against a black man, you should handle it with a black man in the streets. You're gonna take my contracts." He working with the FBI.
In addition to the personal conflict with Whack 100, Big U's case has broader implications for the hip-hop industry and community organizations working in urban areas. His arrest and the allegations against him have drawn attention from various stakeholders, such as Adam 22, who clarified No Jumper's non-involvement despite connections to Brick Baby and Loose Cannon in the indictment. This highlights how the repercussions of such cases can extend beyond the individuals directly involved, affecting networks, businesses, and organizations connected to them. The charges against Big U also raise questions about oversight and accountability in community programs receiving government funding. If it's true that he defrauded the GRID program of $2.35 million, this could potentially lead to increased scrutiny of similar programs and the organizations receiving their funds, possibly making it harder for legitimate community initiatives to secure support in the future. For Big U personally, the stakes couldn't be higher. If convicted on all counts, he could face hundreds of years in prison, effectively a life sentence given his age. This would represent a dramatic fall for someone who had seemingly transformed his life after his previous prison term and built a reputation as both a music industry power player and a community leader. It's important to emphasize that while the charges are serious, Big U is still presumed innocent under the law. His legal team has stated that he looks forward to a vigorous defense of these charges and maintains his innocence, suggesting they believe they can challenge the prosecution's case effectively. The outcome will ultimately depend on the evidence presented at trial and the jury's assessment of its credibility. The complex nature of Big U's public persona makes his case particularly intriguing from a cultural perspective. He embodies a certain archetype in hip-hop, the former gang member who leverages his street credibility into industry success and community influence. This archetype is familiar in the genre, with numerous figures following similar trajectories, though not all face accusations of continuing criminal activities while presenting a reformed public image. The arrest of Big U also has implications for the Rollin' 60s neighborhood Crips, one of the most notorious and established gangs in Los Angeles. As a leader in this organization, his removal from the streets could potentially create a power vacuum or shift dynamics within the gang. This This raises concerns about potential instability or conflict as others possibly move to fill the void left by his arrest. The involvement of high-profile figures like Draymond Green and Shaquille O'Neal as alleged victims of fraud adds another dimension to the case, potentially bringing additional public attention and scrutiny. These connections to celebrities and athletes reflect Big U's reach and influence in various circles, spanning from the streets to professional sports and entertainment. Such connections may have helped him build his legitimate businesses and community work, but according to the charges, they may also have been exploited for fraudulent purposes. The case against Big U is still in its early stages, with his trial initially scheduled for May 20th, 2025. As proceedings continue, more details may emerge about the evidence against him, the potential involvement of WAC 100 or others in his arrest, and the broader implications for the hip-hop industry and community organizations in Los Angeles. Until then, the situation remains a compelling example of how personal beefs, street politics, and legitimate business pursuits can become dangerously entangled with potentially life-altering consequences. For those interested in understanding the intersection of hip-hop, street culture, and the legal system, Big U's case offers a fascinating case study with numerous layers and dimensions. It touches on issues of redemption and reform, the challenges of transitioning from illegal to legal pursuits, the use of RICO laws against alleged gang operations, and the complex dynamics of personal conflicts in an industry where street credibility and business success often go hand in hand. As this story continues to unfold, it will undoubtedly provide further insights into these issues and possibly reshape our understanding of Big U's legacy and impact. Whether he emerges from these legal troubles with his reputation intact or faces the severe consequences of conviction, his story represents a significant chapter in the ongoing narrative of hip-hop's relationship with the streets, the industry, and the law. What are your thoughts on Big U's arrest? Drop them in the comments and don't forget to click the cards on screen for more deep dives.